Welcome back to Golden Guys. It's the up and close. Let's just move it back a little bit. What's going on, everybody? How we doing? Knights will be joining us very shortly. Michael will be joining us. Mike Knights will be joining us. Hello, everybody out there in the chat, and we'll be talking to you guys in a little bit. First, let me introduce my buddy DS Comics over here. James, how we doing?
What's up? How are you? I'm glad to be back after I missed last week.
But, yeah, last week we kind of threw in the Modern Men in there because you were sick, Knights was sick. I had sick family everywhere. And I literally just got done doing some of the Paul stuff of Paul's auction. So I was boxing stuff up and then getting ready for these Slab Dragon boxes and Dragon Heart boxes we're doing. So getting ready to do a lot of that stuff. So that'll be a little bit of fun going on. So, yeah, last week we tried out the Modern Men, and those guys did a great job. And shout out to them for their Monday night show last night. That was really good. And I'm going to call out the chat. I believe some people were privy to just one of the most incredible unboxings ever on D Runk's channel. When you check it out when you can on D Runk's channel. He won one of them Spider-Man booth things. But let's shout out the chat rail now. First in there, Comic Man Andy. Good having you here, buddy. Great guy from the Modern Men. Great job last night there. Ben Compton, how we doing? Chris Barrett, always there. McNugget, that's great. Talking to Comic Man Andy there. DS is there. Gretzky 9966, how are you doing, my friend? Perry's Comics, always one of my favorites right there. We got Midwest Comic Man Paul. How we doing? Good having Paul in here. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about those boxes, I think, at some point tonight. Bob World, how are you? Good having you here. A lot of fun. Okay, good. So Knights will be here a little shortly. He's just letting me know he's running a little late, which is all well and good. And to all of you that aren't in here that we know who are watching us, good hearing from everybody. Mike Lewis and a bunch of people who contact me offline. Good stuff. So, yeah, it's been a busy week. We actually have topics again. I was going to bring up one of them. I think Knights and I can cover. I mean, DS and I can cover. I think the one we should probably talk about is the auction, since him and I have been talking about it. What's been going up for sale recently and what hasn't been? So what's gone up recently, if you don't know, we got the big three auction houses, and I'll let DS take over from here, and he'll go over which is his favorite and why of the three big auction houses.
Yeah, I think, it seems like towards the end of the year, the three auction houses have the best stuff. It always seems like it's at the end of the year, and we're talking big three, if you're not familiar, would be Heritage Auctions, Comic Link, and Comic Connect. Generally, my favorite is Comic Link because of the stuff I'm into, but Heritage has the higher end, like more keys, I think, than Comic Link by a slim margin, especially in their featured auctions. The Heritage featured auctions are just off the chain.
Yeah.
Connect is like sort of a third on that list to me all the time, but coming up, I think Comic Connect's got an event auction. It's not one of their regular monthly ones. They've got some killer stuff in there coming up, and I think it starts on the 11th of this month is when the auction starts. So that's like 6 days. So next week. And they've got Action 1 in there that you and me were talking about.
Yeah, I'll show this up here. One thing about Comic Connect, in my opinion on each one, is very similar to that. Heritage is when Heritage, you got to pay a premium. You got to pay higher for what you would for the same book on the other side. But you have to realize that you're going to get the quality and everything there, especially if it's raw. You do get good quality. Good grading by Heritage across the board. On their raws, as far as their slab goes, no really question there. There is a premium on those. When you get to their big bound auctions, there is no comparison. Comic Connect, their normal auctions are all right, but their big ones, their event auctions, are sometimes have the rarest of the rarest stuff you can ever find that aren't popular really, or they for some reason Heritage didn't get them. Like they had the original House of Secrets 92 artwork in there on Comic Connect. Comic Connect's responsible for quite a lot of them. Not to be outdone, Comic Link has several auctions, including an event auction as well coming up. This is the time of year when there's a lot of big time. The silly season's about to begin. And during the silly season, you get a lot of these auctions here. But like we said, we're going to show you a few of the books here while waiting on Knights. So good seeing everybody. JP's Budget Collecting, good having you here. So what we noticed, just to share with you guys, first one I'm going to show up here we talked about is an Action Comics. This is it here. This is a 9.4, the highest graded Action Comics one. Obviously, the first appearance of that guy over there in the tie and the guy in the back with the cape. Superman himself. So we've got this iconic, the book, the Golden Age book, the comic book, the one that started it all. Whatever you want to call it, it's right there. It's the highest grade ever. It's got extensive. Some of these restorations that have been on here are obviously there's color touch, pieces added, married centerfold. There's some bleaching of the paper. They call it whitening. It's obviously been bleached because it is white pages and a book. And I don't think there's an Action Comics with white pages out there. But this one does. It's extensive. It's a 9.4. Is it going to get to the 3 million mark? No. Do I think it's going to break 1.2? My number for this one is 1.2 is the over-under.
Yeah,
and that's the over-under I'm putting on this one. If anybody wants to play the game, just choose your over and under as we go along.
Yeah, and I think, I've seen, obviously Action 1 is not a book you see every day, but it's not the rarest of the rare. It's a very tough book. I mean, but they're out there, and I'll tell you, I see more of them for auction on Comic Connect than I do anywhere else. That's to say, every year I see maybe 1 to 2. But I think they had one this year already in Action 1, 1 or 2 already this year. I definitely remember 1 for sure. But yeah, so there's a couple things on here that are interesting just from a comics perspective generally. Anybody who's wondering what happens when you have restoration and a married piece, which would normally get a qualified grade, they go with the worst, so to speak, the worst of whatever's done with it. Of all the possible color labels, they picked the worst one. So this would have a green label for married centerfold, but obviously all that resto, so they just go with a resto label. So that's interesting. And interior lightened is not something you see very often at all. Even on big books with heavy resto, you rarely ever see interior lightened. So this was done by a really consummate pro to really get this book in top-notch shape. And to say it's the highest graded, that's true. There's nothing higher than a 9.4. Then again, it's heavily restored, but then again, it's an Action 1. And, I don't know. I mean, this is a book that transcends normal pricing models. And, yeah, I think $1 million is certainly a fair over-under.
Yeah, I think about $1.2 million is where I could see this going. As far as what do you think? Mike, Knights of Old, how are you, buddy? Good having you here.
It's great to be back.
Good having you here. So we talked about the 3 auction houses, and we decided to say, we're going to show some of the books that are coming up. And this one, right in your wheelhouse, you have a few of these copies. So tell us all about it.
Well, is that extensive?
Yeah, it's extensive. There's 5 layers of it. So what you have is the 5 layers. You've got the 5 layers are, for those of you who don't know, it is the color touch. It is the pieces added. It is the bleaching of the paper. It is a married centerfold. And there's one more that they have. Reinforced.
It doesn't say cover reinforced. It just says reinforced. So I think there's reinforcement all the way on the spine and numerous wraps. Probably.
So it's what you would call a 5-tool comic right now. First of all, the Restore did a phenomenal job. Let's give credit where credit's due. Some of these restorers are Michelangelo's on their own right. Mike at Heroes Restoration, I've seen him do some work. Whoever did this one, congratulations to you. I think this is an amazing job to get anything. I'd love to know the before and after of this book. It would be a great history and a great reason that a lot of us in the Golden Age don't mind the purple label. And I'm pretty sure anybody who's a Superman fan wouldn't mind a purple label on a book like this.
I would. I'll buy this book because of the purple label. I would hold out for a blue.
Do you have the before picture?
No, that's what I was going to say. All we have is this to go by. It'd be something.
500K max.
How much?
500K max.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with resto books, they generally, a general good rule of thumb, but obviously it varies widely depending on the book, but generally a good rule of thumb is if it's a resto book, with solid, significant resto, it's about half the value of an unresto book of the same grade. That might not hold true for some crazy monster of a book like this. But there was a 9.0, 9.2 blue label that sold a couple of years ago,
3 million,
maybe 2 years ago for 3, and it hit 3 million. So as a rule of thumb, this would be about half that, I would think. But who knows on a book like this? I think $1 million is a fair estimate, I think.
I think if you have that kind of money, you're gonna want to hold out for something better.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
low on a comic book, you're probably not.
Well, I mean,
you probably don't need to ever like hold out. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
well, I mean, like hold out for a better action.
Yeah,
I honestly think well, to me, that is still a 9.4. I don't think you're going to find a 9.4 Universal. I think the highest Universal available is a 9.0.
I'd rather have a 3.0 blue than this. For
Oh
me.
hell yeah!
A 3.0 blue than a 9.4.
Or a 1.0. I'd rather have a 1.0 blue than this because look, to have any copy of this is spectacular. If you could have a blue label book of this, no matter how beat it is, to me, that's more important than one that's sparkling, looks 9.4 with all this work done. I would prefer just to have a beat, complete, unresto copy, even if it's, a 1.0. But, who am I? I'm just some dude who's never going to be able to afford a book like this. So, whatever. But
what would the grade have been if it was graded before the restoration?
Honestly, I don't. We probably couldn't even possibly imagine what it looked like because pieces added.
When
pieces,
like a 2.
Well, the centerfold was missing too, so it would have been incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
What was missing?
The centerfold. It's got a married centerfold.
Married centerfold? Well, I mean, it seems like they're really going all out to try to make it awesome.
Yeah.
Kudos.
I mean, I personally think this is just going to go for a ridiculous high amount. The other book I wanted to bring up before we jump over to any of the other auction houses was this one. This to me is an incredible book. This is a 9.2 off-white pages, blue label, Action Comics 13, which I argue that this is the first time he's flying on a cover. I do think that's what he's doing. That's one hell of a leap, but he can
7 he's flying. He's in the air.
In the air, yeah. This one I see the cape moving. But anyway, this is one of my favorite. This is my favorite Action Comics with Superman on it, just because Stronger Than a Locomotive comes into play, and it's the best, introduction. Stronger than a locomotive, able to, it's a bird, it's a plane. That was right there. That I don't think we're ever going to see anything like this again come up. And my over under on this one, I'm just going to stick at $250,000 minimum. What do you think?
That's fair. I mean, it's the highest graded. It's an early action, and some of the early actions are out there, and some are rarer than others. And some people can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is one that's on the spectrum of more rare for early actions because you just don't see it. And it's a train cover, which for golden age, the train covers generally always sort of have a cooler feel about them, and this is a train cover with Superman and early action and a freaking 9.2. I mean, yeah, $250,000 easy on that. I think that's no problem.
Yep. I think that's a great one. Knights.
Yeah, I'm good with my.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we see a copy now?
9.8.
Let's see. Look at that 9.8 white pages right there.
That is a really nice copy, though, man.
It is a good copy. Look at that. It's one of my favorite. I mean, of any Superman comic, like I say, that's my favorite cover. Even like the American Eagle cover and even the other one. I was always drawn to that particular one.
I really like it. Yeah, I mean, it's my like it's so like iconic. Faster than he's strong. He's saving people. I love that style train. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a specific type of train that they kind of modified it, but still I love the the look of it and all that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know you owned that, man. That's nice.
Yeah, very good. So we talked about this one and this one. The other one I want to bring up, maybe Knights. I don't know if this was Comic Link or this was there. Knights, this is what I want to bring up. We talk about two superhero books, and this is what I'm going to call the random superhero book. Okay, this is a Nomura, which I understand this is it's an early appearance or an early of her own title. It's a very good cover. This is a beautiful copy of a beautiful cover. I'm just saying this is an average superhero comic, right, from the era with exceptional grade. So I'm not saying the quality. The quality is right there. It's ridiculously high grade at 9.4 white pages. What do we think the average superhero book from this era, pre-World War II, because we got to stick to that requirement because we're not doing Cap 1s. but does not a cap like a middle late captain would be around this level. So what do we think about something like this? Where do you think something like this would end up?
Well, what do you mean, like pre-war? Because this is a 40.
This is during the war, right?
I think it's after.
Yeah, after the war. Okay, so post-war, 9.4
superhero.
Yeah. What do we think about a 9.4? The average grade of one of these books, of a average superhero book. I'm thinking
average grade.
No, average value. What do you think it's going to go? Because the grade is ridiculously high.
Well, I mean, this isn't average. It's timely, and it's in that little window when they did a lot of women, and that's gotten a lot of traction in a few years. Yeah, Blonde Phantom, her,
Sun Girl.
Yes, and I think one more too, but
I forget the other one.
And this is a Mile High, but
throw Lorna in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like
Den of the Jungle.
If it, I mean, 9.4. I mean, that's
so what do we think something like this will go for? Just in case somebody who's a high grade collector, who's looking for high grades, an average price of this book here. I'm not saying it's a Brick Bradford 6. I'm saying this is a superhero era book.
I think this has the potential to go high, but it takes, a couple people to be interested, but it's like a super wild card, Mile High, super. I don't know if it's the highest graded. I mean, I would guess at least 10 grand.
I was going to say on this one, maybe 12.5 to 15 would be my number.
If it's the highest rated, though, there's people that like to collect the timelies of anything. Yep. They want a complete timely set, more expansive than the MMCs, but a highest graded copy, Mile High pedigree, I could see if you get two dudes looking for that, easily could get into like the 50 grand range, because there's some guys that want the highest graded copy of a complete pre-Marvel sort of grouping of books. And if that is, you need is two people that want that. And then sometimes those highest graded, the second highest graded will go for like 8 grand, and then the highest graded hits like 50. It's insane. So, I don't like timelies, but I see that happen with highest graded stuff like that.
And there's people who have all the timelies, and they are just upgrading as time goes on, and they love the pedigrees. Yeah,
the pedigrees are very popular for timely collectors and Atlas collectors. I've been very aware of that. I mean, I do like the pedigrees I like. Don't really have any Golden Age, but I do have a few pedigrees in the Golden Age. Not really Edgar Church level. Some of the other ones, the Boland brothers, or the few other minor pedigrees, I guess you'd say. Couple of Harvey files, but one of the things that I notice about timelies is the pedigree, and I don't know a better segue than declaring what I consider the book that's going to break 2 million on its own. Be the second highest book ever sold. I might as well show it now. This is on Heritage.
Yep.
And we are not showing the AF-15. I will not have that on here because this is much more impressive. I'm saying, Knights, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have cut you off that because that was your reaction to what I wanted to see. There it is. This is the 9.4 Universal Pedigree Marvel Comics 1. There isn't anything like this, and I reiterate my rationale behind this being the most important or the highest graded comic book of the era of any of the keys, because the highest graded Action Comics 1 in a universal grade is a 9.0, in a restored grade is a 9.4, in a Tech 27 is also a 9.0, in a Batman 1 it's a 9.2, in a Superman 1 it is also a 9.2. There is a 9.8 Cap 1, which does throw this a little bit out of whack, but I think this is a bigger book for timely than the Cap 1. I'm not blaspheming when I say it. Prior to the cinematic age, this was the book to have for sure. This is the Marvel comic. This is where none of this is it. This is everything to me. This is where Marvel. This is the greatest comic book on the planet today, right there. I say $2 million. I think 1.5 is a fair over/under. But there is no of the big 6 books. I mean, there is a 9.4. What's that? All-Star 8. All American 8. Which one is the one that is a sensational one? But what's the third highest?
I don't know. I mean, on the boards, I don't get the impression that they think this is the highest graded as there is, and there's all kinds of people showing how this was graded lower grade.
Yep.
So,
Kind of seeing the way. Well, we've seen it as an 8.5. In our collecting days, we've seen the same exact book in 8.5 and a 9.2.
You have a snoring dog or something next to you?
Yeah, I do.
I was hearing what that was.
I got one there, one there. Go to the other side of the room. She's this fucking big. She's the size of a slab.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I don't think many people are going to care about the history of the grade on this book because as it sits now, it's a 9.4, Windy City pedigree, nice black label. But and I really like that it's a Frank Paul cover. He's big in pulps. Very well known in the pulp world as one of the top artists. And when comics got started, he did a couple. He did like Super World Comics. He did this cover. He only has a smattering, a couple of comic covers. But yeah, this is the first Torch. I think first Angel too.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's a massive book. I think $1 million.
First real Submariner. I mean, I think the other one was not published in the wild. So
you mean the motion picture one? There is one of those that's up for auction too.
When does this end? This one?
November 15th.
Oh, wow.
It says 15 days to go, so more like November 20th.
November 20th. Yeah, I know that there's a TV show they're doing something on the 15th about that.
Current bid is 270.
So. I mean, this thing's gonna skyrocket. I mean, everybody's just waiting.
It should at least go to $1 million.
Well, if the cap hit $1 million, and the 9.4 hit $1 million, then the 9. Nobody knows what the 9.8's gonna do.
Well, what's a bigger book in the similar high grade, this or a Cap 1? What do you guys think?
There's
this.
There's the as far as highest grade, like that cap, the one that not long ago, the highest one. It wasn't the highest grade of the caps.
Well, what do you think the highest graded cap versus the highest graded of Marvel Comics 1? What do you think's more valuable book?
Well, the cap is a 9.8.
I don't know.
This is a 9.4.
I would think it's on the popularity.
I will still say this book because the cap book, as popular as it is recently and it has been for quite some time, I'm not saying it's not been not popular. I think the Cinematic Age made that book quite a bit more recognizable for everybody, I guess is the easy way to do it, to where it became much more popular because of its recognizable. The image was shown in the films, the whole story behind it. Kids are reading the comics, it's been shown everywhere. This is really harder to come by and never really recognize, other than maybe when they did the that Marvel 80s, the thing they did 20 years ago, they did the reissue of this. That's when people probably remember seeing that cover for the first time or is rampant. But it's still, there's never been an image in the films or anything that's been done like this. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
This book is a really, really hard book to come by. Whereas, I
could get a Cap 1.
Cap 1's out there. I mean, there's quite a few Cap 1s out there. It's not hard to come across a Cap 1. If you're looking for a Cap 1, you can find one throughout the year. It's not hard to find a Cap 1. It's hard to find one of these.
It's harder to find a Wiz one than it is a Cap 1. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, I believe that for sure. Yeah,
I mean, think about that.
All over the place, really.
I see so many Cap 1s. I don't mean at cons. I mean on the CGC boards for sale all the time. I see there's at least one per auction. This is the first time I've seen a Marvel Comics higher graded than a 6 in my life in an auction. And that's watching a ton of auctions and going to auctions. And honestly, I've heard about this book. I've seen the 8.5. I didn't see it go for auction. I know it was a private transaction how it went from the 8 to the 8.5 to the 9.2 guy. I mean, it's we know the history of the whole book, so we've documented it. It's been documented. The provenance of it is perfect. I think this is just it. I think, and while they're obviously the Action 190 and Blue Label will garner more attention because it's Superman, and the Tech because it's Batman, but this is as rare, if not rarer, than the other two.
Yeah, well, on the census, I'm pulling that up now. Captain America has, number 1, has
Probably 100.
169 total. Okay.
How many Universal?
That's not a lot, but you
Well,
know.
I mean,
Eh,
I had a PCH book that had 169 in the center. I would drop it way down my list because I can pick that up anytime. But I
I
think
have books with 3 on the census, 2 on the census.
I don't
Now,
know.
Marvel has 62.
How many?
62.
62.
And how many action ones?
Oh, let's see. I'll take
I
a
bet
look.
you it's closer to the Captain America number than it is the Marvel Comics number.
I know Batman has like almost 300 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
there's a lot. Funny thing is about the text. I wonder if they count the pages. Because you ever see those Tech 27 that are just the pages? What do they put them under the Tech 27?
No, they don't count. No, they don't count because if you look at the census, that stuff's not even on there.
Yeah, because that drives me nuts. Because people, when that started happening, people literally were ripping up fucking books.
Yeah, well, pages have become a big market now. So
I know. Taking a book that might be a graded 1.
Action 1, 72 copies.
Okay, so there.
Yep.
And
yeah, to put that in perspective, though, for people who are watching or going to watch this that are not Golden Age collectors, it depends on what type of Golden Age you're collecting. All of it's far more rare than Silver Age and up. But
right,
if you're collecting pre-code horror and stuff like I'm collecting, generally, if something is under 20 in the census for stuff I go after, I consider that to be starting to get hard to find. But if there's like 20 to 40 on the census for the stuff I collect, it's an easy to find book. I'm not worried about it. There's plenty out there. That sounds insane, but for the stuff I'm in, a lot of the stuff, there's less than 10 on the census. Now, there's a lot of them out there that aren't graded, but when you get into like Superman and Batman, you start to see several hundred on the census. And then when it dips down to like 150, now that starts to be rare among the superhero stuff, like a Cap 1 with 169. You know, that's rare compared to other Timelies and other like superhero stuff. When you get to like Batman stuff, you got several hundred on the census. But some of it just depends on what you're going after. But, you know, the pre-code horror stuff, the line for that is like 20. If there's over 20, it's not considered to be a rare book. So it's the difference of
one thing to think about. So the more like top 10, top 50, most expensive, if the book that you're looking at is in that,
it's going to get
slabbed. Its accuracy on the census is way higher. Like the less money the book is worth, it's way less accurate because people need to worry about insurance. People are selling these. They want to know how much theirs is worth. You know, there's way more reasons to get it graded if it's like a $500K book or whatever versus like a $5,000 book.
Right. One of the things I bring up when it comes to the rarity of the book versus the top 10 books is you want to get those slabbed for the insurance. There's less volatility in those markets. I'm not saying they move together. Okay. Those 10 books move together. Pre-code horror, JS, if I'm wrong, while it moves together, some tend to have these peaks while other tends to have valleys at the same time. There'll be a craze. Like there is a huge craze right now in the jungle for Matt Baker again. Now, Jack Kingman, it drives me crazy because I'm sitting there buying these books. I'm like, I have a ton of Baker on the inside of these books, but nobody cares about the inside. They're like, did Baker do the cover? I'm like, Baker didn't do that many covers, man. He not in the Jungle World. He did mostly interiors and for most places, outside of a bunch of Teenage Confessions and a few Phantom Ladies here and there. I mean, Baker did not do a lot of covers.
Another thing that affects the census numbers also, you know, I think like pre-code horror books that are worth $1,000. It's not as big as insurance thing to get them slabbed, but that's a hot market, and there's so many more PCH books on the census now than there were 2 years ago because everybody is sending all their PCH to get slabbed. Even just that's why there's so many 1.0s, 1.5s, 2.0s out there. So there's a ton of them being flooded in to get on the census, but the superhero stuff, I think there's a lot more that have been slabbed previously, early on, like a couple decades ago, even, you know, like 2005 to 2010. There's a lot of cracks and cleans and presses and resubs on the superhero stuff, like early Actions, early Tech, stuff like that. That's not happening with a lot of the PCH. Most of the PCH stuff on the census is new to the census. Most of the, a large amount of like the techs and the actions, the Supermans, the timelies have been already graded, and a lot of those are being cracked and resubbed. So I think the census numbers are more inflated on some of the superhero stuff as opposed to a lot of like the stuff that's only really been popular for a couple of years. Nobody was slabbing PCH 10 years ago. Nobody. There's hardly, you rarely come across OG label.
Jungle's getting slabbed now. People are slabbing Jungle books, and I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, nobody was slabbing Jungle Book. Now they're all slabbing everything like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's a graded 7.0. I'm like, yeah, but I need it open because I kind of like the interior on most of these things. So one of the books I was talking about that was heard was out there was let me see. There was something else in the book. What was the other big book that was?
There's
was it Batman? Yeah, there's one of these. Okay.
4.0.
So 4.0. This is a good conversation right now, Knights.
Okay.
And this is one for you right here. Okay, the Batman one, definitely one of the top 5 books of the era. If you go with including the Marvel one, I would go Action, Tech, Batman, Superman ones, Marvel. There, maybe the All-Star. I don't know how people feel about the first golden age of Aquaman and everybody. If that's a Green Arrow, if that's as big as. Because it's a harder book to come by, you know what I mean? I consider that a harder book to come by than it's Sensational. So I throw that into there. But here's something that's not really hard to come by. There are a lot of Batmans. A 4.0 is a great grade for this book. This is like the equivalent of a major high grade book for this book. But there are quite a few of these. Where do you rank this one with this grade? Where do you think this one's going to end up?
Well, I think there's a growing number of people who would take a Tech 31 over that. In that grade, but I don't know how strong that if that really translates. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know the price for this because I've never really been a huge fan of
the
Batman one. I mean, it's cool, but like personally, I'd rather have a 31.
Yeah, this is going to go for $250.
You think $250,000.
250, and I'll tell you, there's been a few Batman ones this year in 4.0 and 4.5, and I think
the Joker movie has
pretty consistent, like 30 to 250.
That is first Joker, so great timing. Kavi, Comics NYC, we absolutely agree with it. I might as well shout out the chat while I have it here. Mac Daddy Austin, yes, you made it. Congratulations. Good having you here. Mr. Gressy's here. Bubs Comics. Thank you. JP's Budget Collecting. Oh, that's the one I want to go over there. That's Silver Streak. We have a really rare book coming up next.
People always argue on the boards if Batman 1 or Cap 1 is like they're seen as
300 here
all the time. I don't know. And Batman usually wins when it's a 4. Like if it was the same grade in the same auction, usually the Batman would be more sells for more usually.
I've always argued the point that Batman actually outsells Superman. Even in there, Batman sells out everything with the exception of Action 1. Take Action 1 out of the picture.
Yeah,
it's a Superman that compares to the Bat.
And I hope there's not too many Superman fans in the chat, but the reason why Batman outsells Superman is because he's just way cooler. He's just more badass.
He became
the
cooler.
Golden Age stuff is less goofy than Superman. The Superman stuff in the Golden Age is goofy and juvenile, and it's just not nearly as cool. Batman is much more badass of a comic book character in the Golden Age than Superman, in my personal opinion, but I think that's partly why Batman is more popular than Superman, and other than one, of course.
I would consider Tech was the teen book, right? Tech
and Action have a very similar relationship to Marvel 1 and Cap. Like a lot of people are more into Batman and a lot of people are more into Cap, but yet Action 1 and Marvel 1 are more historically relevant and important per se, but they're just not as popular. And maybe if there was no Batman movie back in '89, he wouldn't be as popular. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, because that's something that we talk about now in the cinematic age. I bring up Captain America as that. I mean, I grew up at a time when I could have got a Cap 1. It wasn't that hard, and it wouldn't have been the most expensive book. I think other books that were much more recent were more expensive for a long time. Fantastic Four 1 was right up there, not same grade. This is pre-grading, so it was kind of like subjective and stuff like that. While quality of books were not as finite as a 1.8 or a 1.5, you were thinking, yeah, it's readable. You know, it's a reader copy. You had reader copy, you had good, you had fine. I mean, we had the grades. We knew what mint looked like. I mean, we didn't know what the numbers would mean. Everybody called it the death of the industry.
Yeah, but I see is bringing up a point. He mentioned the villains. You know, if you think of Batman villains, they're awesome. If you think of Superman villains, it's hard to come up with 5 Superman villains for me. Maybe I'm just not because but I mean, you have Lex Luthor. He's just a regular dude, and he's
I like that Mixoplick fucker.
Yeah, he's cool, but I mean, he's goofy as hell. You know what I mean? It's not like the Joker or the Riddler or the Penguin or like the Scarecrow.
Yeah, you're right. Because Frank Miller made change in Batman. I always say that the '84 run of Frank Miller Batman kind of changed Batman forever. He became much cooler, and he was during the Tech run he was cool. There's a run where he's as hokey as can be during the mid '50s to late '60s, before Neil Adams took over, before Neil and Carmine Infantino and those guys. When Craig Swan, and I'm not knocking him, I'm just saying that the runs of those middle bats prior to the Bernie Wrightson and the Dark Knight really coming to fruition, it was hokey. I mean, pre-Tech, definitely not. Tech was definitely hard, techie style, but middle Batmans, let's say the mid '80s all the way up to the 160s, were probably all maybe 180s even. We're all until you got to maybe 181.
Chris Barrett listed some Superman heroes. I think Bizarro is not even I don't even think that's a Golden Age villain. I think that's Superboy 168 or something. Isn't that early Silver Age?
That's post
Brainiac 240 Silver Age too, isn't it?
No, Brainiac is around the time of Mr. Freeze.
I think Brainiac is Silver.
Yeah.
So Solomon Grundy's got 2, right? Solomon Grundy was definitely Golden Age first.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. Batman's even. I always compare Solomon Grundy, one of the minor Batman characters, is more popular than a major Superman character, and that's just a fact. I mean,
it's hard to make a good Superman villain. I mean,
he's so freaking powerful.
Yeah. So, Sarah, you want to see this other book?
Yeah, this one here, Knights. You know about this book, right?
Now
this is one of the rarest. We're going to find the first appearance of the Claw. This is a Silver Streak. This is pretty ridiculous. A 9.6. What year was that? 1940.
That was 39.
And there was an ad for that inside Marvel 1.
Okay, it's an ad for that.
It has a full-page ad for Marvel Mystery #2 in it. Yeah.
Yep.
Silver metallic logo too, so perhaps the first foil logo ever. Foil forever. Silver metallic logo. That Silver Streak logo is silver foil.
So
it's crazy.
I mean, that's a book that collectors would just gobble up right now. That's the guy single highest graded. I'm 90% sure.
And I'll check the census because I'll bet you on this the census is.
I'm saying in the teens.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot. I'll check
it. Hey, if I want to share a picture.
Mixoplick I know is golden. Toyman is golden. Bizarro I thought was Superboy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a Silver Age. Bizarro's a Silver Age.
I think he's 54, right? He's right around Showcase. Yeah, because Bizarro, that whole line would have happened after Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen came out.
Silver Streak 1. All right, so this is going to amaze you. This is the difference. And the Silver Streak would be the type of book I would go after, but obviously I'm not going after that one because it's going to be probably $200,000, $175 or something.
That's I
Only
think that's a fair under on that.
13 on census.
I said 13.
So there you go. I mean, it's in the. So that's crazy. There's 13 of these. There's 169 of the other one. So I mean, that's the difference in the category of books when you go from like a major superhero to some of this off-brand stuff. There's only 13 on the census. So
one of the fun things, when we talk about these auctions, that there's also some stuff for the everyday folk too. There's an entire I would say it's a Preco horror focused pedigree that's coming out. I wouldn't call it a pedigree though. I mean, these books are in the 4s and 3s, and there's a couple of 8s in there. But there's the Comic Connect is doing it's almost like a crypt auction. It's interesting. So I don't know if anybody's Knights will keep. I mean, DS will keep an eye on that. There's a few other books here and there, but then, one of the things that I know which the discussion is about how grading over time grading evolves. An example of how the 80s and any writing on cover. I love this topic, Knights. It's
good.
This is like something I often get into about whether it be date stamps or crayon marks on Golden Age books. I buy a lot more raw than I do slab. I'm a much more raw fan of what I buy, of what I collect in the Golden Age, than I am a slab one. When it comes to a slab, it's usually a book that I think I can either flip really easy, or it's a book that I'm more interested for the historic novels, not for my personal collection. I actually love, unless it was the highest grade. One like example of that jumbo I have in that 9.4. It's the highest grade. I'm not going to touch it. I got lucky with the grade, so I'm like, yeah, I should slab this one. But here's Knights of Old Screen. There we go.
Do you see what I'm showing? I'm trying to show a picture, a cap.
Green label.
All right. I don't know. It's hard to get used to this. I just want to point out this is ending in a couple days on Hake's auction.
Oh, okay.
And this is a way to get a cheap cap, And
what are we talking on this one? About 8 to 10?
810. You mean price?
8,000 to 10,000.
Oh, I mean it should be 20 at least.
I mean, I'd see 7.0 restored go for 30. So
what's the qualification on this one that makes it green?
It's only married centerfold.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
And
typically, and greens have married stuff has been rising, but sometimes it definitely goes lower than you think it would, and so I don't know. It's out there. I think it's already pretty high. It might be really? 20K already or something.
I would rather have had the 7.0 restored.
It's already 26K.
The 7.0 restored came back, and the restoration was slight, professional, and the restoration was questionable because it had tape removed, and it went for 32,000 about 8 months ago. It's whenever I bought my House of Secrets 92.
Yeah, I would probably take this over a restored copy.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
it would be close though. If the restoration was color touch or trimming, I would take this in a heartbeat. But if the resto was
glue removal,
glue on the spine, or cover reinforced, or tear seals, I would take the restored over this.
And it's also about the presentation. Yeah. This presents very well for a 4.0. Let's be honest. It's a 4.0 because of the inside. This would be probably a higher graded book than a 4.0 if it didn't have the qualification on there. I mean, it could easily be up almost to a fine, almost like a 6, as long as that spine's intact, which I don't see anything on the label to say spine is split in any way. It looks like it's in good shape, but we don't know what's been married other than the centerfold, right?
Well, I mean, they usually say if it's more. So
yeah, I mean, if you're talking about this pure as a cover book, it's phenomenal. It's a really good book. I mean, maybe 26 is a little high for me on this, but again, that's to each his own. I mean, while I love Cap 1, I love to have a Cap 1. I wouldn't jump out of my way to have that as much as I would rather have, like I said before, the Marble 1, a Tech 31.
I would love to get Tech 31. At some point, I want to get like a 0.5 or a 1.0 complete Blue Label Tech 5. Tech 31.
Yeah. Action 13, which we saw. for those of you guys want, just to let you know, some of our favorite books are going to be the same as everybody. Even though what we were talking about pre-code horror collecting or Jungle Books or elephant collecting, we still all have our favorites. They're that. Well, maybe not that one, but this one is, I think, probably. I think a lot of us agree that that's the Tech 31 of Action Comics to me.
I want to add an early Action Comics to my collection, but every time I go to search and find out which one I want, none of them really appeal to me, and so I haven't. There's one that's like it's not a black cover, but it's Superman diving in a steel mill to stop the molten steel from splashing on the workers who are wearing gear. And it's like a really dark cover, black with some of the orange molten steel. That one I really like. But for the most part, I can't really find any early Actions or Supermans that I like.
What about the black one with the eagle?
I'd rather have the 13, to be honest with you.
I don't like patriotic covers because, I'm patriotic, but I don't like politics on my comics. I don't like flags and Eagle World War II stuff. I just like dark, fantasy, sort of dark noir horror themed stuff on my comics. If it has the one with the eagle, no, I don't like it. There's one with lightning where Superman is getting struck by lightning. I like that one.
Yeah, there's that one. The one over the boat is a good one.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good ones, but the war-related and the patriotic ones, I can't do it.
Yeah, there's a few.
There's some texts I like. All the texts I like are like 1 through 26, and then 31. Once it hits 27 and they start being the Batman texts, I lose interest real quick. But I like the pre-Bat texts, and I like Tech 31 because Tech 31 to me is like almost a horror cover to me.
Action Comics 50 is an all-black cover of when he's rescuing the miners. That's one of the rare ones I was kind of. I'll just put it down here and I'll show it to everybody. That's one of the books I was going to say if you're interested in some really hard Action Comics with the black label and stuff like that. Let me show you this one here. Where is it? I think it's 50, right? This is one that it's always been on my list to say maybe if you ever find this one, this is a really good one to find in a good grade.
Yeah, that one's cool. I like that one.
Really cool. I love the gray tone in the back of the miners, as well as you got that ad for that famous crappy cover. No, it's a patriotic cover. It's a good cover. But this is like Superman's first time you really get to see his like full build, This is like a famous image of Superman that you've always had, the Atlas image. But most of the time he's either flying or in action. He's actually flexing the whole way through. It's pretty impressive. I think it's a different kind of Action Comics if you go with an older one. This is a great one to get. And this actually, I think, dates the TV show right around that time as well. So there's ads for that. Just an example of it.
I have the list if you want to. And we're back to this week in history.
Okay, yeah. We'll start that. It's 8:51. We get plenty of time to do this. I have about 10 minutes to get through as best as possible before I got to do Stranger Things.
All right. This, I guess I'll try to share my screen again. See if we could do this. Share. Oh, I see. You can actually drag this. Oh, no, you can't drag it. Sorry. Okay.
All right. I'm going to bring up your screen. You ready?
Yeah. So I don't know how to zoom into that one area, but
hang on. Let's see. How did you do the last thing?
The last thing I dragged that image into a browser. So I don't know, but I can't do that with each thing.
I think we could try something here. All right. Okay, we'll try with this. So we've got this. Actually, what number is that? 7?
Okay, yeah. So, all right, we are in 1938. And no, this week. So this, a lot of people say, is his first flying cover, number 7. Yeah. And that's what, his second appearance? No, sir. And then we got this great Bill Everett.
Yep. Mystery Funnies, early book.
And let's see. Okay, and then we're moving on to 1939. You recognize that one?
I believe somebody in this chat has that book.
Yeah, I've got that.
Yeah,
I
you
love
do.
that book.
Riveted. Well, you got a great grade on that, didn't you? You got
Yeah, I can't remember the grade on my copy. It's 5.0 or 5.5.
a great grade. Yeah.
And then we got ignore that one. So then we have Fight number 1 is also in
Great.
39.
Great book.
That's the Lou Fine cover, probably, right?
Very hard to find. It's actually one of the. It's harder to find that and a Jumbo 69 are the two hardest of the pictures.
I never ever see this ever.
That and Jumbo 69 are very rare to find. Very hard to find.
And then also in God damn, why does this? Okay, here we go. Also in 39 this week, the first ever swastika on a cover of a comic book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I saw one of those for sale this year.
I used to have 2 of those. All right, and then we'll jump to in your time machine. We'll go to 1940. This is pretty cool. It's almost Joker-esque. This
Oh
guy.
yeah. There you go. Keep that going.
I don't know who that's supposed to be. And then problem is when I do that, then it won't let me advance. Stupid Windows. Okay, and then we got Skull cover hit. I think that's a Lou Fine.
It's either a Lou Fine or Reed Crandall.
Hey, is that Reed Crandall though?
I don't know. I'm gonna try to get more info next week. But
Skull cover though.
This is a Pocket Comics. These are smaller. These are cool. The idea was to give them more in a smaller format, I guess.
They're actually impossible to get one that's readable nowadays.
And there's a big market for those because they're hard to find, and there's people that collect those, and they go for a lot of money.
They go for a lot of money for what you. I mean, you're getting a book that's been ripped up. These things.
Yeah, and I think that's probably like what is that? A Harvey publication or something?
I think Harvey did some of them, and before that, there was St. John's. I think had a lot of them.
And this is 1941 now.
So, the guy who collects these, I usually get a text from him.
Yeah, that's pretty there.
We also got this crazy looking cover with like Nazi, I don't know, swamp men or gnomes or trolls or gremlins or something. And I think that might be Hitler, but it looks kind of weird. But he kind of has a mustache. And I mean, this is a great one, Victory V.
Yep.
Yeah, that one's really nice. I like that one. That's got
Nazi skeleton. Yeah, that's 3 superheroes in that one, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I have to look that one up. There's a few of them.
And then still in 41, Eagle. That's a really great cover. You can see here the inverse swastika. We talked about that before, how that happens sometimes. And then we have, this is a great one.
Yes. That's Lou. That's CC Beck, right?
First Captain Nazi.
Bullet Man.
That goes for a lot of money. And then we got U.S. Jones. Pretty cool. Another inverse swastika. And where are we at? Oh, yeah, 40. So this is 41, Cap 10. This is the last Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy that they had such a huge impact, or at least it feels like they had a huge impact on Marvel Comics. No one talks about Timely's and Marvels without mentioning those guys, but they were there very briefly. This is 41, and they're gone.
Yeah, they had their own. They were doing there's a lot of Simon Kirby war books that are actually just war stories. Very famous war runs by various publishers, including DC, that Simon Kirby works. So if you ever see them, they're called Simon Kirby works. So,
and then this is they're getting on the war bandwagon. This is still pre Pearl Harbor because it would happen this month. And then we're moving on to 1942. I thought the design on that book was pretty cool. You don't see those very often. There's Caps going strong without them. The funny animals are starting to get big.
That was that pretty much took over. That was one of the biggest selling ones.
Yeah.
For soldiers overseas too.
And Timely had some funny stuff going on with that one, and the Crazy Comics.
Yep.
And I thought this was a pretty cool jungle.
Yep.
That's got like a dragon or something.
What number is that? It's in the 20s.
That is 37.
So, I just bought 38.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I just got 38 the other day.
And then we have
that's what bitch supposed to be here today.
Classic cover. Busting Nazis, and this is a one of. There aren't too many Wonder Woman.
38. So you're in 43, 1943.
1942. We're still in.
Yeah, that's Jungle 38 right here. Ooh, just bought it.
And then so Kirby and Simon are over at DC at this point, and I think they're about to get drafted into the war at this point. And then we move on to 1943. This is a pretty cool Blue Beetle.
Nice fight comics, yeah.
Crazy fight comic.
Early fight wars were very, very popular. They were very big. They're very hard to find. Before you get to the Senorita Rita, actually, Fight suffered because when the war ended, it was worse than Captain America. Fight became a Jungle book, a Senorita Rita, stories about the Amazon. It kind of didn't know what to do. So.
Well, imagine coming up with these crazy things every cover. I mean, it has some crazy in peril.
Yeah, a lot of these Fight Comics Fiction House stuff, they took a lot of these themes from pulps too.
Oh yeah, it's totally swiped.
Yeah, after the war, they came up with a bunch of pulp related material that they just sort of retconned in these.
They retcon so often in the Jungle to Jumbo to Fiction to Fight to Ranger. There's just different poses, pretty much.
Schomburg, some other stuff besides Timely during this time.
That's a good one.
43, still in 43. Now we move on to 44. I thought this was an interesting cover. I never really looked at this before, but it's really. I'm not sure if she's supposed to be like a robot or.
Could we pick up 45 on? Because I got to head over to the other show and close this one.
40. Sorry. What'd you say? Sorry.
Just skip ahead to 1945. I think there's another show coming on Comic Core.
Oh yeah. I'll finish 44 and then so this one. I mean, would you consider that a robot? What would you consider, or a clock? I don't know.
Because the pictures are not big enough, so I can't.
Mechanical Man.
Let me.
He's a man made out of clock pieces, right?
Yeah, or woman. I don't know.
Yeah, woman.
I mean, it looks kind of robotic.
Yeah, I would call that a robot cover.
And then this one was interesting.
Yep.
That one is
very hard to find. Yeah. That's actually one of the most common ones you see as looking for hard to find headline comics, Yeah.
And then we got a classic like Cobra Commander style.
Yeah. The Ranger comics, which was just the dawn of a new era with those books. They were just ridiculously. Rangers are very underrated. Very good book.
Another Schomburg.
Non-timely Schomburg.
Yeah, there's just 3 and 45, so I'll just hit those up real quick. So we got Tommy.
See this one. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Tech 8 cover swipe.
Yeah, pretty hard to find, I feel. And then we have this. I don't know if this is any good or not, but it just reminded me, like I didn't see too many covers like this that were kind of simple and like designy, and it reminded me of a Cole before there were Coles. I mean,
yeah, one actually I've come across a few times and almost pulled the trigger and didn't, and it's not quite something that I want to spend money on, but it's on my radar because it is a very cool book. You'll see Treasure Comics has some really cool one. They have one of my favorite elephant covers too in there.
Yellow Jacket. This is Pocan Joe picked up one of these at C2E2, bought it right in front of me.
Yeah, pretty nice.
I looked at it, put it back. It's probably about a 4.5. It was a great price on it. Maybe a 5 on a good day, but really good colors. The colors popped. The back had some marks on it, but then as soon as I left, it came back. Pocan Joe walked away with it. Good book. So
right.
TJ,
need to go, or
yep,
should I?
We're gonna end right now. Golden guys, we'll be back next week. Thank you for being a friend. Tune in for about 3 minutes. We're gonna get started with some Stranger Things. You don't want to miss this. Some really rare, fun stuff.
What are you gonna have on that this
We're
time?
having a more oversized books, a lot of eerie, creepy, and I have some rare, like less than 1,000 ever produced by some great artists that you'll be able to see. And TJ's got, of course, you're going to see some amazing covers of some amazing books right now.
Hey, Steve, when you talk to TJ, see if you can talk him into selling me his Web of Horror 3.
Sure. I'll see what he can do. Web of Horror 3, first Bernie Rod Wrightson cover. We might just show that to open up the show. All right, everybody. Thank you for being a friend. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Things on its way.